I was walked to the door, put into a wheelchair, and then wheeled into the emergency room. Instead of separate rooms, they had the sections with a bed separated by curtains. And there were a few people in there, and I was brought to one particular area. My breathing had become labored, so they immediately put me on oxygen. The chills got worse. I felt cold. The headache was pounding. The oxygen helped to kind of stabilize the breathing, labored breathing that I was experiencing. But while I was there, I could see people being rolled in on stretchers and rolled into other areas. And they had this one room across from where I was, and they were taking people into this particular room. And I realized this room was a room that had specific significance. I didn't know what, but I did watch as people were rolled in on a stretcher sitting up. And within a half an hour sometimes, or an hour later, they were rolled out with that stretcher down and their faces covered with a sheet. So this seemed to be a room where there were people that they did not expect to make it. So that night, it was terrible. I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, and I began experiencing nightmares. And the recurring theme was darkness. By about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I felt myself walking around in the room without leaving the bed. So I knew I was hallucinating, and at the same time, I'm saying, okay, Lord, is this the time? It's in your hands. I believe that. I'm confident in that. But I started thinking about my family, unable to contact them, to say something, to let them know what I'm experiencing. They think I'm in a hospital, I'm going to be okay, they're going to treat me, and everything will be fine. But it got to a place about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll never forget, I felt like I was staring down into this dark abyss. And it got so bad that, my heart started beating, palpitating. I was trying to keep my emotions down. My feet began to turn purple in rashes. And the burning on the bottom of my feet was so bad that I couldn't put the sheet on top of it, because anything that touched it, my skin was highly sensitive. And I know that was the nerves, that I had to keep my feet exposed. They came in and they said, you tested positive for COVID. They said, we're going to put you on a regimen. I found out that it was hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and they were giving me anticoagulant injections in my lower stomach area. By this time, I'm experiencing every symptom imaginable. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, when I felt that place of just exhaustion, I remember praying. I said, Lord, I just abandoned myself to your providence. My life, my future, you're in control. I'm in your hands. And I will tell you, in the midst of that darkness and that sense of isolation, a peace came. A deep and profound peace came over me. I did not feel strengthened by it, but I did feel settled by it. Within an hour, I began to all of a sudden reflect on that passage in the Gospel of John, where it says in the chapter 1 that the light shined into the darkness. And I remember that passage because it's one of my favorite passages. It says, the light shined in the darkness comprehended it not, couldn't understand it. The darkness could not ally the light. The darkness could not extinguish the light. The darkness could not stop the light. And boy, that became alive to me. And I thought about, the light of Christ coming into the darkness of human society, the darkness of fallen humanity, and what that meant, and the fact that nothing could be done to stop it. And all of a sudden, it's like the light, I'm getting goosebumps. All of a sudden, the lights came on, and I began to feel strength. So abandoning myself to God's providence gave me peace, but not strength. And sometimes you can have peace, but not feel strengthened and empowered. But when that text came alive the way it did, I became strengthened. I felt a courage that began to surge inside of me. And the theme of light and darkness came alive.